Bipolar Barbie here. Now, today I wanted to talk about, functioning. Because I think, in regards to mental illness, it really probably affects most your functioning capacity. And I think that's the most devastating part of suffering a mental illness, is because you do have this change or fluctuation in functioning capacity. And I think it's particularly difficult for people with things like borderline, bipolar disorder, even borderline personality disorder, even anxiety, things that sort of come and go in waves. I guess that's the definition of like when you have an episode, which is a sudden change in not just your mood, but your ability to function. And I think this is the part that people really don't understand about mental illness in general. I mean, depression completely zaps your functioning capacity. And I think it's really interesting when you actually look at brain scans of people with mental illness compared to a normal person. So they have done millions of MRI brain scans on this exact topic. And it's not like when people say it's all in your head, it's like, well, duh, like your brain is in your head. But what these amazing, incredible brain scans have actually shown is that someone with a depressed brain only has 10% of the functioning capacity that a normal brain would show. And they can obviously tell this by different colors in the MRI scans, which basically represent the amount of neurons that are firing and brain activity. So someone with a depressed brain will actually be quite blue. Ironic when people describe depression as being blue and sad. So it's like it actually shuts down. Your brain is not working properly. It's like a car that is not running properly. It's any form of machine. It is not at peak performance. So it's really, in that regards, just like having any illness, like when you have the flu and you're exhausted, it's very similar to your brain. That's why you will experience symptoms like fatigue, kind of this memory loss, this like foggy thinking, because your brain is just not computing as quickly as it normally would. Now, for people who have experienced some form of mania, it's like the complete opposite. So your brain functioning capacity is almost like at 1,000%. Like if you look at those scans compared to a depression scan, which is all black and blue, then what you'll find with a manic brain is it's like pink, purple, yellow, red, like that is on fire. And they've actually found the same brain deterioration in people with Alzheimer's as they have with people with bipolar disorder. So the longer your bipolar disorder isn't treated, the longer a manic episode goes on for, then the more brain cells you're actually killing. So I think that's really the most important part about treating your mental illness, because you're doing damage not just to your life, not just to your mental state of mind, but also like your physical body and your brain. And honestly, if the brain is the control center of your body and it's not going to peak performance, then we really need to take care of it. We really, really do, because we only get one brain. And a lot of the times once we kill these brain cells, we're not actually going to get them back. So that's really sad. So I think this like functioning capacity, attention really needs to be brought to it. Because I honestly think I would be a lot less mentally ill if I was, living in the forest. I love to build tree houses. I think as like a caveman, I would have a better level of functioning, because a fluctuating level of functioning does not work in our society. Like there is an expected, a standard level of functioning that we're all meant to uphold. Whether that be, sort of working 9 to 5 is what's expected, 5 days a week. That's a full-time schedule. We're expected to also maintain a clean house. We're also expected to do some form of activity, socialize, all of these sorts of things. Now, we all know that there's 24 hours in a day, that we're meant to sleep for about 8 of those hours. We're meant to work for another 8. And then, sort of the 8 that's left over is just those ordinary things we need to do to keep ourselves alive, and, kind of cleaning activities, relaxation, chores, all of that sort of thing. I think what we really need to look at mental illness functioning capacity is look at it as if we do not have 24 hours of the day. So most people have 16 hours when they are awake, And I think even like normal people only have a certain level of concentration that they can withhold throughout the day. So we know that when we're tired, we can't focus as much. When we're sick, we don't have as much energy. So there really is, only a certain amount of hours throughout the day that we can actually function and do things without completely crashing. I have learned through personal experience, and when I am depressed, there is like an hour or two of functioning capacity when I'm at my absolute worst. So for me, depending on the level of depression that I'm at, because it's obviously a scale, it's a downward slope, sometimes I'm functioning at a level of depression where I might have 4 hours, 5 hours, I might be able to have an hour here, then I've got to rest for a couple of hours, and then I've got another hour of kind of energy and concentration. I think it's really difficult when people kind of don't understand this, because that's where a lot of the stigma comes from. They don't understand why we can't work a full-time job, why we need to take time off work, why we can't just, live our life and do the things that everyone else needs us to do. It's not because we don't want to, and it's not because we're lazy. It's honestly like our body is not functioning enough for us to be able to do that. So basically, if I'm really, really depressed, it's like 22 hours of the day, I'm not functioning. There is absolutely nothing that I can do during that period. And it's not because I want to, it's not because I'm lazy. I spend that entire time like lying in bed, hating myself, cursing myself for the fact that I can't just get up and function like a normal person. In general, people kind of get really weird about it, especially if it's like, okay, well, I had an hour of functioning, or I had an hour or two of functioning that they witnessed, and then all of a sudden I've had the amount of functioning that I can have for the day, and I'm back into a non-functioning level. People even don't understand, they'll say things like, well, why are you just lying around in bed now? You were functioning fine an hour ago. Oh, you were out doing things this morning, why can't you do things again this afternoon? And I try and explain it to people in this way. It's like, I only have a certain amount of hours of functioning capacity, and I've used them up today. Like, they are gone. If I've only got 2 hours, whether it be 4, 6, or 8, I've just used those hours up. Whereas, like, for example, when I'm manic, man, I've got 22, if not 24 hours a day where I can function. I don't even need to sleep. I have energy that's like through the roof, a mental capacity that is just out of this world, and just completely insane. So it's, I guess, for me, one of the most important lessons that I've had to learn with managing my mental illness is actually changing my entire lifestyle. I had to accept that, the normal life that society expected of me was just not going to happen. It wasn't even about achieving a level of recovery, because all my medication really does, all I guess I can really hope to achieve in my level of recovery is to kind of limit those mood swings. So when I say I'm going to be bipolar forever, which is a fact, it's not just something I've made up. When I say I am going to struggle with mental illness my whole life, that is very true. It will get better in the sense that what my mood stabilizers do, for example, instead of having mood swings up here and down here, it sandwiches them down into like a relatively normal emotional range. I am still going to have those mood swings. They are always going to be there, but I can find ways to limit the intensity of them. So I think even then, I am never really going to fit into that 9 to 5 normal life stereotype, which caused me a lot of trouble for a really long time until I accepted it, until I stopped letting people tell me that it was wrong. I mean, they still do judge me for it, and they'll never understand, but that's fine, because I know what is best for me. So one of the best things that I did a couple of years ago was I actually found a type of employment where I was very open with my employers, and for a while I really could continue to work in a capacity that I had never worked before. The reason is because I stressed to them that the important thing to me, more important than work or anything, was going to my doctors, my therapist appointments. They could not roster me on the days that I had appointments. They were not allowed to call me in if I had appointments, and they were really great with that. They really respected that, and they really made sure that they catered for that, which is awesome. And I know not everyone is lucky to have that. But another thing that they really allowed me to do was kind of be like really open in communication with them. So on a week by week, month by month basis, I could kind of decide if I could handle like 12 hours of work, if I could handle 25 hours, 35 hours. So that was really good for me to be able to kind of deal with that functioning capacity. So I learned a very valuable lesson in that, even though ultimately I ended up going in a hospital for a few months and I couldn't continue with employment there because I sort of lost all functioning capacity for a while. I think I learned a valuable lesson that I really needed to create a lifestyle that allowed me to be mentally ill when, episodes would occur. And I think I spent a lot of my life tearing everything down that I had spent so much time building up. For example, university. It's all great and good when you first start a university degree, and then all of a sudden you lose all of your functioning capacity. All of a sudden you're not doing assignments, you're missing classes, you've completely skipped exams, you've just disappeared off the radar. Guess what happens then? You fail courses, you drop out, you do whatever. Same with a job, then you end up losing your job, whatever it is. I went through that cycle like 1,000 times with more degrees than I can count, more jobs I've had in my life than years I've actually been alive. Probably by a significant number more houses I've been in, like all sorts of trouble this has caused me. What I realized is that I had to find a way to be able to live no matter what functioning capacity that I was in. I had to prepare for the worst. I had to set myself up so that if I was down and I couldn't get out of bed and I couldn't function at all, that life would kind of keep going on and I wouldn't tear everything down. And I am like really lucky. Well, I guess you kind of make your own luck. I wouldn't say that I'm lucky, but I would say that the plans that I have for my life now are really about that. I think for me, not being able to function has been very distressing, especially as like a highly functioning individual. When you're functioning at such a low level, it's, that gap is really distressing. So for me, working on things like my book, working on like projects, I guess, that I could just put aside and then go back to when I could function, whether it be art, whatever it is that I'm currently working on projects has, I guess, changed my life because it's made me feel like I'm a successful person because I am slowly making progress, even if I currently am not making any progress. They're not things like I've done in the past that are sort of time sensitive. They're not things like I have to be there at a certain time. I have to put a certain amount of effort in on like a continuous basis. I've really had to learn that that is the only way that I am ever going to get through life and have a type of life that is not only conducive to my recovery, but is going to be sustainable throughout my whole life. And I think everyone's different and that's okay. Whether you're mentally ill or not, I know like this really awesome motivational speaker I met once, Ron Lee, known as the Corporate Ninja. He told me I was in the wrong job when I was working at a hotel. And he told me that the only thing that would ever fulfill me as a person is project-orientated work. Now I understand what he meant by that. Because I'm not motivated, I guess, by money. I'm not motivated by pleasing people. What motivates me is doing a project and having something to show for it. So that's what actually motivates me as a person. I get really passionate about a project. I get really excited, really motivated it. And when I complete it, I feel really good about myself. So knowing that that's what I need in life and kind of finding projects that I really can work on, despite, this fluctuating functioning capacity I have, has really changed my life. And I know a lot of you are probably out there thinking, oh, well, not everyone has that luxury. You know what? It's not a luxury. You have to work damn hard for it. There are options out there if you're creative, not necessarily in like the artistic industry, but you just have to want it. Where there is a will, there is a way. And in this day and age, there are so many options. You can really find a way to have the life that, I guess not only you want, but you need. And I think looking at your needs is really, really important. Not just the things that society tells you need, like to work full time and things like that. No, what do I need right now? Like, what am I capable of on a day-by-day basis? And I kind of bring this up now because I've been functioning a lot at night, and during the day, I've been hardly functioning whatsoever. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I know there's a supermoon, which has been driving me, like, making me just mentally insane, more than I already am. But I think whether that's night that's made me, like, really awake and a night owl, I've been cursing myself for not being able to function during the day. And I was talking to my social worker about it today, and she said, I think that's normal for any creative person to be more functioning at night. And I think there's a couple of other things involved with that. One is there's such an expectation to function during the day. And I'm terrified of not functioning because I've been not functioning for so long. And I know what it's like to be judged for my lack of functioning. So I think when people get home from work, sort of after 5, 6 o'clock, there is definitely this sense of like, oh, nobody needs to function at night. It's just this kind of relaxation time. So for me, that takes the pressure off. And I actually find that release of pressure makes me so much more functioning. There's also the fact as like a borderline that I do not live in a safe place. There are people around during the day that absolutely terrify me. And the only time I feel kind of safe and calm is at night. And with that fear gone, with that anxiety gone, it's like I can just take a deep breath and I can go, okay, I can do that. I also know there's like my low latent inhibition, which means that noises, sounds, like everything that goes on is like screaming for my attention. And I can only focus when there is like no noise and I'm like in a, just a really concentrated, really clear space. So I think part of that is why at night I function a lot better, because there's not as much noise. It's dark. There's not absolutely every little detail of the whole world screaming for my attention. So those are some of the things that I've had to learn. And I think I've had to also learn how to stop putting myself down about them. And accept that I can't make other people understand, but I just have to do what's best for me. And I think right now what I'm going to try and do is, as much as people say it's like unhealthy and that sort of thing, you know what? If my body and my mind wants me to kind of stay up later right now, and that'll give me a level of functioning that I wouldn't otherwise have if I force myself to go to bed early, even if I force myself to get up early, and still go to decent night's sleep. It's just like I literally don't start functioning until like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, regardless of what time I go to bed and regardless of what time I wake up. So that's what I'm going to start doing. I'm going to sort of keep you guys updated on how my functioning goes, but really just take a look at your functioning on a level, and see if you can explain it to people in the way that I've explained it today. I really hope it's been helpful. If you think, friends, family, there are people out there who would benefit from this, then feel free to share. Let me know your thoughts on your functioning capacity. What are things that give you a better functioning capacity? What times do you have a lower functioning capacity? And to what extent do those sorts of things actually interfere with your life? Because to me, it's out of this world. Like, seriously, guys. So please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. And let me know if there's anything else you would like me to talk about. Good night, guys.